Utility Sports Video today is brought to you by Manscaped, the best company in the world when it comes to men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family's jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you from Utility Sports. Use code UTILITY20 for 20% off plus free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. Again, use code UTILITY20, UTILITY20 at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. Does your current hygiene routine leave you with a whole bunch of nicks, cuts, and overall just a hassle? Well, luckily for you, the Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and wow, is it a game changer. Manscaped sent us this package so we could share how great it is with you, our awesome viewers. Inside this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker nose and hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a free travel bag to hold your goodies. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, has a phenomenal LED light to help you with precise accuracy, and is a 4th generation trimmer which features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. Additionally, the Weed Whacker nose and hair trimmer is waterproof and does a really good job keeping your skin safe and protected. The Crop Preserver and ball deodorant plus Crop Reviver toner are game changers when it comes to your hygiene routine. Trust me, you'll never look back and your balls will thank you. Performance Boxer briefs and the travel bag are free gifts on behalf of Manscaped as part of this awesome Performance Package 4.0. I love wearing and rocking all of Manscaped's products, and you should too. Make sure to check them out using code UTILITY20 on manscaped.com. Remember, this is specifically for our viewers here at Utility Sports. A 20% off discount code plus free shipping when you use the code UTILITY20 at manscaped.com. Yes, 20% off plus free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com when you use code UTILITY20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. NBA draft season is upon us. We are just halfway over the NBA season, and we're also getting a good amount through the college season, which really lets us know what these prospects are going to be. I've been spending so much time watching these prospects, studying the film, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, and there's a ton, not only from college. There's a high school kid now in this year's class as well who just transferred into Kentucky. We're also looking at a few other options out there as well, an NBL prospect, and quite a few other options. So in today's video, we're going to be covering a lottery mock draft here for 2022. And the best thing about this too is halfway through the season, we kind of have an idea what the teams are going to be in the lottery. Now, of course, there's some that can shift out, especially after you get past pick 10, but it's still wide open. There is a lot of crazy things that can happen. So make sure you guys are subscribed here at Utility Sports so you don't miss out on any of the latest when it comes to the NBA draft, the NBA season, or the college season, because we cover it all here at Utility Sports and much more. Leave a like on today's video and comment your thoughts as we go throughout it here. And remember, today's draft order is going to be based off the standings on February 3rd, 2022. So we're taking into account who is at what spot in the standings for this video. For example, Orlando has the worst record, so they're going to be starting us off here at pick 1. They currently sit bottom of the standings in both the East and West. They're the worst team in the league right now, which makes sense because they're playing a ton of young guys. Franz Wagner's playing a ton of minutes. Jalen Suggs is as well. He's been really picking up his performance as of late. You look at Cole Anthony, a young guard who's been really good for them this year. They don't have a lot of veterans eating up minutes, which leads to this team not being super good at this point, just because you're playing a lot of young players. And I think when you look at what this team needs, it just needs a little bit more consistent half-court scoring. And arguably the best player in the class here, Jabari Smith out of Auburn, he fits that bill perfectly. He's 6'10". He's going to be a beast in the mid-range area. He's someone who has a really good face-up game and can also stretch out to the three-point line. He's a perfect power forward in today's NBA. He's athletic, mobile, can guard out on the perimeter, has extremely good length, speed, quickness, can handle the basketball a little bit, and he's also someone who can work into the mid-range area. Pull-ups are his work of art. His dribble pull-up game is phenomenal, and he's someone who's going to have a big time impact at the NBA level when it comes to scoring the basketball. He has high defensive upside on the perimeter. I think he needs to get a little bit stronger yet to be able to handle some stronger power forwards in the NBA. But at this point, given where his development's at, he is just a freshman. You get him into an NBA strength and conditioning program, he becomes a monster at the NBA level. I'm really torn on him and another player for who my number one player in this year's class is, but it's a really great class. The top 4 are insanely good, and then 5 through 15 are also really good. This class is just very talented in general. I think there's going to be a lot of near all-stars in this class, if not for sure all-stars. And Orlando gets their pick of the bunch here. They go with Jabari Smith. I think it's a phenomenal fit into what Orlando needs. You get a power forward. You play Franz Wagner at the 3, Jalen Suggs at the 1, Cole Anthony at the 2 long-term. You also have Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac, who you have to figure out how they fit in there. They have Wendell Carter, who's playing really well at the center position as well, potentially outplaying Nikola Vucevic this season. At least there's a discussion for that. So it shows how well they did in that trade. And I think Orlando is really well set up for the future, despite some of their struggles right now. Moving into pick 2, we got the Detroit Pistons, who I think are less established and less well set up for the future than a team like Orlando, just because their rebuild didn't get to start with a big Nikola Vucevic trade, right? They didn't have a big time asset to move. Troy Weaver came in there and inherited a real mess with Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond. There just wasn't a lot to have go right for the Detroit Pistons. They lucked into Cade Cunningham, and that was huge for them because they needed a player like Cade Cunningham. He's been absolutely fantastic, one of the best rookies this season. Even despite a little bit of a slow start, he's really picked up his play. And I think he's shown himself to be a franchise-level player there in Detroit. Now it's about trying to find guys who can work around him. This time I'm going with guard Jaden Ivey. I did this in my last mock draft as well, and I think Jaden Ivey does make sense here because he's just another dynamic ball handler who can get to the rim with ease, can find others around the perimeter. Him and Cade Cunningham can really work. And when I look at this, Cade Cunningham, throughout all last year, I compared him in a similar way to Luka Doncic. I don't think he's going to be that level of player, but I think he's kind of that same role, same archetype of player. And right now in Dallas, Jalen Brunson's really stepped up big for the Mavericks, but it was clear they needed another guy who could really handle the ball and take some pressure off of him. Detroit, you have to get out ahead of that early. You go with someone who has high superstar potential. To me, Jaden Ivey is that. He's arguably the best player in this class to me. I have him and Jabari Smith 1 and 2, and it's really tight. I think Jaden Ivey can be a phenomenal player, very reminiscent of Ja Morant. He's shooting the ball better from 3 than Ja Morant ever did at Murray State. He's similar to Ja Morant with the sophomore rise, where freshman year didn't have a great impact. Sophomore season takes a massive step forward. I think his experience in the U19 World Cup really did help him with that. And I think Detroit here gets a phenomenal player who fits next to Cade Cunningham. He's going to put fans in the seats and is someone who really opens up the transition game for them as well. I think they have to get better scoring the basketball in transition. I think that's going to help them win a couple more games, and I think that's going to be huge. Detroit still has a ton of other needs, don't get me wrong, but this is a massive step in the right direction for Troy Weaver and the Pistons. Moving on to pick 3, we got the Houston Rockets here, another team that had an accelerated rebuild because of what they had on their roster to trade. Of course, that was James Harden. They got off of him, and now they're in a situation where they have a lot of young players and a lot of picks. Now, of course, they are losing some games right now. That's what's going to happen when you have young point guard play and you put a shooting guard at point guard and expect him to be great his rookie first year playing that position. Truly, it's not going to go over well. And I think Houston right now, Steven Silas, this team just needs a little bit more help scoring the ball outside of their guard position. And I also think that they need someone who can be transcendent for them and do a lot of the little things that contribute to winning. So there's 2 options here. Paulo Banchero out of Duke, who's the scoring option. And then there's Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga, who's more of that winning archetype where he's going to go in and help you win games by doing the little things, hedging out on screens hard, protecting the rim, getting back into plays, and just contesting shots around the rim as well. He's also going to be a pretty good perimeter on-ball defender. And for that reason, I am going with Chet Holmgren. Christian Wood's on the trade block. I know that the Miami Heat have a lot of interest in him. Other teams are going to have interest in Wood as well. And I think it opens the door to Chet Holmgren potentially being the long-term big for the Houston Rockets. He's similar to Kristaps Porzingis when you consider what he's going to maybe play in the NBA. He's probably going to start out as a power forward, but really the hope for an NBA team is that he gets a little bit stronger where he can hold some real minutes at the center position, which gives you a huge mismatch when you have to put a center on him defensively because of his ability to stretch out to the three-point line. He's got really good passing feel in the open court. He can handle the ball, dribble it up the court, push it in transition. There's a lot that this kid brings, and Houston gets a lot better bringing in a player like him. You have him and Alperen Şengün. Those two could be really, really nice complement pieces in the front court. Moving on to pick 4 here, Oklahoma City Thunder, and that leaves us with the obvious selection here, a guy who many had thought could go first overall. I know a lot of people still believe he can, and it's not out of the question with how tightly packed those top 4 guys are. It's really going to come down to what a team prefers. At this point, though, I've opted this way. I think Jabari Smith has earned the number 1 overall pick status up to this point. And then that leaves here a guy, Paolo Banchero. And part of the reason I have him fall to 4 is I have a little bit of concern with his health. Of course, there's the report out that he loses 7 pounds per game of water weight. That is concerning to me. That might get flagged by some medical staffs. And when there's such a talented draft class, maybe it does push him down all the way to 4. OKC, though, here, very happy to take this risk. They get a phenomenal wing scorer, someone who, to me, is very reminiscent of Knicks' Carmelo Anthony, someone who loves to operate in the mid-range area, has the size and strength to do it, can play through contact. The only question for him, for me, is does he have enough quickness to become a perimeter ball handler and someone who can beat people off the dribble, get to the cup that way? I don't necessarily see that for him, but his style of play is very beneficial for what his skill set is right now. He's comfortable lulling guys to sleep, rising up in that 15 to 18 foot range and knocking it down consistently. I also think that can stretch out to the 3-point line, and he could be a really productive player quickly for Oklahoma City, who I think they're going to trade Kenrich Williams this trade deadline. And I think then they move forward with Paolo Banchero being one of their key players of the future. Pick 5, Sacramento Kings. They have risen up the board here. GM Monty McNair has been witnessing a struggle there in Sacramento. Despite De'Aaron Fox being there, Tyrese Haliburton, Davion Mitchell, this team just is not complete. Rashawn Holmes, his injury this year did really hurt this team, don't get me wrong. But they're not in a position right now where they're going to make some serious damage unless they add in some really good players. I'm going with forward Ben Mathurin out of Arizona. He's someone who I think could play the 3 in the NBA, maybe better suited to play the 2. But at this point, I think he can play the 3, especially when you have a bigger guard like Tyrese Haliburton there, who, you know, gives you some size at that 2 position. I'm not concerned about it for Sacramento. They're all about trying to get the best player. Ben Mathurin, really good defensive player, can fill in the gaps. I think he's starting to take some of those challenges I've been wishing for him to see at the collegiate level, guarding the best ball handler. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at the Arizona versus UCLA game and say, whoa, Arizona got their shoes knocked off in that one against UCLA. That's fine. Don't hit the panic button because of one collegiate game. In fact, Ben Mathurin played pretty well in that game. So I think that he's the best player on Arizona for sure. And I think he's very well possibly the 5th best player in this class when you consider where the NBA is at. He's going to be a perfect 3-and-D wing with higher upside. Someone like Mikal Bridges in Phoenix, that's really the comparison for me. However, I think he's a better offensive scorer. I think he's a little bit more like Tim Hardaway Jr. as a scorer offensively, which gives you a really good blend at that wing position of someone who can take a little bit of a load offensively, but can still be a big-time contributor on the defensive end. That's Ben Mathurin here. Sacramento gets so much better with this selection. Moving on to pick 6, the Indiana Pacers here now. Rick Carlisle's squad has struggled this season. Domantas Sabonis has been putting up numbers. Miles Turner, of course, is out right now. Malcolm Brogdon's missed a ton of time. Still no TJ Warren to be seen anywhere. This team's got a lot of questions. Karis LeVert could be on the trade block at the trade deadline. There's a lot that can change in Indiana in the next 10 days. But first, let's take a look here. Center Jalen Duren in Memphis. For me, I think the obvious answer is, even if they don't trade Miles Turner this deadline, I think they probably trade him by the NBA draft. And they're going to be looking for a long-term replacement at center, someone who fits what Rick Carlisle wants to do. And that's going to be an athletic big who can protect the rim, guard out in space, and collapse into the middle. And he's also someone who can be highly productive in the pick and roll game. He's going to go out, set high screens, and roll hard. He's got a little bit of playmaking feel, which is what keeps him in the top 6 here for me. And excuse me, that says Sacramento Kings, but this should say rather the Indiana Pacers. So excuse me on the graphic. There is a little bit of an error there on the graphic. This is, of course, the Indiana Pacers making this selection of Jalen Duren. I think it's a perfect fit there in Indiana. Moving on to pick 7, we got the San Antonio Spurs here. Now at this point, they're in an interesting position because I think they have a ton of talented young guys. Some of them might be on the trade block. Not exactly sure who's going to be on their roster come February 11th, one day after the trade deadline. But I think they have a ton of avenues to improve this team. And for me, it's going to be about going with the best player available at this point. That's guard Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. You add him into a guard room. They've already got a ton of talented guards, but I think Johnny Davis becomes a real standout there. Him and DeJounte Murray become the starting backcourt of the future. Johnny Davis is a solid playmaker, someone who hasn't had to play make a ton yet for Wisconsin, but I think could if asked to. And he's also someone who can get his shot off in the mid-range area. San Antonio spent a ton of money in draft picks on three-point shooters. I think now they need that dynamic scorer of the basketball, like what DeMar DeRozan was for them. And Johnny Davis can be that. He's really taken massive steps forward in his second season. I think he's going to be someone who has a huge role in the NBA. Looking now, pick 8, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans here at this point. Pelicans, they're an interesting team. Of course, Zion Williamson still has not yet played this season. Brandon Ingram having a pretty solid year. And you look at this team, they're a little bit devoid of point guard talent. And for me, I'm going with guard Jaden Hardy, who's a little bit of a combo guard playing for G League Ignite. I think he's got a really high ceiling, but also a very low floor. So this is a little bit of a risky pick for New Orleans. The thing I'm most excited for is the Rising Stars game coming up here in a couple weeks, because Jaden Hardy is invited to that. We're going to get to see him against players like Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball. We're going to get to see him against actual NBA players who are really talented. And I think if he shines in that game, it could be massive for him, ending up still as a top 5 pick potentially. For New Orleans here, you need guard play. You need someone who can create off the dribble and also get others involved. I think that's where Jaden Hardy is progressing this season at G League Ignite more than any other areas. I think he's getting better at understanding his shot selection and also getting others involved in the offense. And I think New Orleans here takes a stab on a home run type of guy. And I think really their floor gets elevated massively if this kid does hit. Pick 9, the Portland TrailBlazers here. They've had a past couple good weeks. Anthony Simon's been playing really great basketball for them. Yusuf Nurkic has really picked up his play. And they're an interesting team at the deadline here because Robert Covington, perhaps they want to trade him, get some assets for a 3-and-D wing, but they're also within reach of the play-in. Perhaps they try and get to the play-in and then also try and get into the playoffs. You'll get Damian Lillard hopefully back healthy by the end of the year, and you just have to win a couple games to sneak in. Portland, maybe they have that ambition. Perhaps they make a couple trades though too. Doors really wide open for them. But at this point, I'm going with forward Shaedon Sharpe out of Kentucky. And you might be wondering why I have the air quotes around Kentucky there. He has not yet played a game for Kentucky, came out of high school. He's the player that graduated from high school in the winter and then went into Kentucky. He's technically a freshman, but he joined in the spring semester in Kentucky. It's crazy. We've not really seen anything like this. And he's draft eligible based off of his age. He is, I believe, 2 months older than Amani Bates, and Amani Bates is not draft eligible, and Shaedon Sharpe is, which is just crazy. That's how it works, though, in the NBA with their rules about draft eligibility. And I think here at this point, he's someone who's extremely athletic, and the Blazers kind of have a little bit of a draft hell with that. They like drafting athletes. A guy like Nasir Little a few years back reminds me of that. And then you also look at what Shaedon Sharpe could be. It's hard to tell right now because you really only have high school film. So he's a little bit of a risk. I know some people have him going near the top 5. I have him falling a little bit to 9 just because of what the tape is on him. When you consider a guy like Kevin Garnett didn't go in the top 3 because he came out of high school. When you consider Kobe Bryant went near pick 14 coming out of high school. If Shaedon Sharpe doesn't have any collegiate play, I do think that knocks him down the board a little bit. But I still think he stays in the top 10 just with how high he can jump and the athleticism he's flashed in his career. I think he's going to be someone who can come in as a skilled wing and really develop his game over time. He's going to be young. He's going to be moldable. And I think Portland here takes a stab at him and aims to really build out their long-term future projections. When you look at what Anthony Simons could be, you try and build around him. Nasir Little, you add Shaedon Sharpe into that bunch, and you have a pretty good young trio of guys to go alongside your current team with Damian Lillard. Pick 10, we got the New York Knicks. Now at this point, they're struggling. They're a team to watch for when it comes to the trade market. I think everyone is available in New York. Every single player. I think there's not a single player they wouldn't take an offer on. Evan Fournier, I said at the offseason he was a bad signing. I think Knicks fans are starting to see that. Cam Reddish hasn't even been getting minutes because Tom Thibodeau wasn't on board with it, clearly. You also look at Kemba Walker. He's been a little on and off for the Knicks. And I think there's a lot of questions about effort as well for New York at this point. For me here, I'm going with a guard, Ty Washington out of Kentucky. Really good ball handler, someone who can manipulate the pick and roll. There's a lot of questions about what this team's going to look like. But I think the age-old question in New York is, can we find a point guard? Can we find the guy who's going to be our long-term ball handler and really drive this team? For me, that's what Ty Washington can be. He's really good in the pick and roll, very comfortable as a scorer. Really comfortable as a scorer, and also someone who is growing as a playmaker. And I think he becomes the best ball handler that the New York Knicks have. I know a lot of people are still putting some faith in Julius Randle. I had warned you guys about this last year. Last year was his outlier season. He had never played like that before, and I don't think he'll ever play like that again. Let's be honest about it. Julius Randle is not that talented. He is someone who got extremely hot last year. His shooting percentages and shooting splits show that. He's regressed back to the mean, and the Knicks are in trouble because of that. And here, a guy like Ty Washington, he helps this team immensely. And I think that this would be a really good pick to help the Knicks take a massive step forward for the future. Pick 11, Washington Wizards here now. At this point, they're going to go in here with a little bit of concern about Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal perhaps could be a name that this offseason does get traded. We'll have to watch for that around draft season. But here now at this spot, they're going to go with forward AJ Griffin out of Duke, who fell a little bit in this because of Shaedon Sharpe's emergence into the mock draft, simply because of when he came into Kentucky. AJ Griffin, though, gives you a lot of the similar traits, and we've seen at the collegiate level, he's really picked up his play. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid goes as high as pick 5 in this year's class. He's someone I'm having troubles pinning down because I think at this point, his film isn't as good as a guy like Ben Matherin's or Johnny Davis's, but NBA projections from NBA scouts and executives might put him a little bit higher because of his body type, his physicality, his athleticism. I think he's someone who we could see elevate throughout this process even more. Washington here, though, gets a really good player. I know they have a logjam at the forward spot already. I think they could use another guard there, but it's difficult. You want to go best player available if you're Washington, and to me, that's AJ Griffin. Pick 12. We're transitioning here to the Memphis Grizzlies. This pick comes from the Los Angeles Lakers, who have struggled all year long. And now the Grizzlies reaping the benefits as they sit third in the Western Conference. And they're going to go ahead and take forward Kendall Brown out of Baylor. Another guy who I'd seen as a top 10 pick all year long. Fell down to 12 here, and again, it's phenomenal value. Think about what Kyle Anderson's been for this team. This guy, Kendall Brown, is a better Kyle Anderson already. He's going to come in, be a solid spacer on the perimeter, can play with good speed, but also can play to his own tempo. Someone who I really, really like as a distributor. Reminds me of a better Joe Ingles, a more athletic Joe Ingles. And I think that's a phenomenal grab for the Memphis Grizzlies here. You get another ball handler off of Ja Morant, helps you push the floor in transition, and also gives you someone who's a reliable guy to put the ball into in the half-court offense. Kind of reminds me of Nick Batum a little bit. Zaire Williams, of course, a guy that I compared to Nick Batum last year. For the Grizzlies, I know a lot of Grizzlies fans are going to say, whoa, we have this. We don't need to take that. You guys have a ton of things. This team is extremely talented. It's hard to find a need on this roster. It's all about going best player available, though, and Kendall Brown, to me, is that guy. Pick 13, Atlanta Hawks here now on the board. They've gotten a little bit better as of late. They've been playing better basketball. Part of that's getting healthy. Trae Young's really been playing great the last couple months of the season. And I think Atlanta is in an interesting spot after that Cam Reddish trade. They have 2 first-round picks. And here they're going to go for guard Max Christie out of Michigan State. The reason for me here is he's someone who's phenomenal off the ball. And I also think that Atlanta needs a little bit more offensive firepower coming off the bench. And Max Christie can be that for you. He's really good in the mid-range area. He uses his feet well. He squares up to the basket exceptionally well. And he's also someone who keeps his hands ready when he's off the ball. It's going to help him translate to the NBA as a really good shooter. And I also think that it gives them a little bit of wing and guard depth behind their current starters, because they need guys on rookie deals to save some money while their other players are on bigger contracts. Helps them against the luxury tax. That's ultimately why they traded Cam Reddish. And here now, Max Christie fills in. Cheaper long-term contract on a rookie deal, and someone who I think is going to be very beneficial for Atlanta to add as an off-ball scorer, and someone who I think down the road could take a little bit more of a load too from Trae Young. Pick 14, the final pick here in this lottery mock draft. Make sure you guys do leave a like if you did enjoy. We've got the Boston Celtics here now. They've picked up their play as well. They're over 500 finally. The East is super deep. So Boston's very well a team that could slip into the playoffs right now. They're just a little bit behind the Toronto Raptors, who are 8th in the Eastern Conference. Celtics sitting at 9th. And I'm going to have them go with guard Hugo Bassan out of the NBL. I know a lot of people are looking at this guy as a second-round pick. I'm telling you right now, book Hugo Bassan's name in the lottery. I'm telling you, this kid is a lottery selection, and I would be shocked if he isn't. I was way ahead last year on Josh Giddey, and this is the same case here again. Hugo Bassan is going to be, for sure, a first-round pick, probably a guy who goes from 18 to about 6. That's really where his range is, I would think. Not 1, excuse me. Hugo Bassan is going to be a phenomenal pickup for Boston here because of his ability to shoot the basketball off the catch. He's someone who can catch and move. He's going to be able to run off the screens and gives them a floor spacer next to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He's going to be an offensive weapon. Now, defensively, I don't think he's going to be that great of a player at the NBA level, but Ime Udoka has got this team really well coached up. We've seen it in the past too. Brad Stevens isn't afraid of playing smaller guards when he was the coach there. So it would make me think that he's not afraid of playing a non-defensive guard in a lineup, with the idea that team defense and concepts can overcome individual defensive talent. And for me, Hugo Bassan, someone who offensively gives the Celtics the little bit of a lift they need. When you look at their splits this season, they're much better defensively than they are offensively. Hugo Bassan addresses that. He can also do a little bit of ball handling. He's been great for the New Zealand Breakers, and I think he'll be really good in the NBA as well for the Boston Celtics. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe as well. Thank you for watching. It really does mean a lot having your guys' support. So leave a like, subscribe. Only 6% of our viewers are subscribed to the channel. So make sure you do smash that like button and subscribe. Use code utility20 for 20% off at Manscaped. They have a ton of great products. And we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.